Good morning. Welcome back to our channel. Thanks for joining me today. I've just had some things kind of on my heart and my mind that I felt like sharing. One of my favorite radical parenting, unschooling channels here on YouTube is Lucy from Lulastic Hippie Shake. You should definitely check her out if that is the kind of video you're interested in. She made a video recently talking about defiance in children, and it resonated with me a lot. I have challenges with non-compliant children in my life, and I've had to really do some hard work within myself to open up my mind to the best ways to help them through that and help myself and still have a good healthy relationship with them and accept who they are and figure out what that behavior means and what they need from me. That's something that is on my mind quite often as a parent. One of the factors that I've considered a lot is where this idea that children need to be compliant comes from. Because I think anybody who has been around a variety of children knows that they come in all forms when it comes to willfulness and defiance and compliance. Some of them just naturally are, and some of them have challenges, and some of them just, march to the beat of their own drum, as some might say. And I think historically, those who are less or non-compliant have been seen as defiant or naughty or, it kind of in a negative light. And it gets me thinking about where this need for compliant children comes from. There is an element of safety involved, obviously. We need our children to trust us when we say something is not safe. We need them to be compliant for safety's sake. And I think that has been more relevant historically. If you think back 150, 200 years ago, if you had a warning or a need to tell your child to do or not do something, if they didn't comply with that, it could be life or death. I think that's less common now. It can still be relevant. Safety is definitely still relevant when thinking about compliance in children's behavior. But I think it's a little less relevant. We're relatively more safe, at least where we live. Compliance is not always an issue of safety. I think that has evolved into meeting societal expectations of what children should behave like. And it can be embarrassing when they don't, especially if we're around other people who might see our defiant children and think negatively about us or them or both. And I think that's a natural desire as a human to not be judged and not be thought of negatively. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing inherently, but it can cause damage if you put too much weight into what other people are thinking about your actions, your behaviors, or your children's actions and behaviors. Need a brief intermission there. Had a snack. Wanted to grab my notes. So I've just been writing things down as thoughts come to me over the last week or so on this topic in particular. So I was saying society on a large scale tends to value children who just listen and do as they're told, and I think this stems from a good place of safety. We need our children to trust us that when we say something is not safe, they need to listen. But I think over the years it has kind of morphed into something different. trying to shove our children into a compliant box when it doesn't suit them can be quite damaging. I don't think there's one clear solution that fits all situations. I clearly only am familiar with my situation, so I can only speak to my experience. But I do think there's value in asking yourself, what kind of child do I want to raise? Is a compliant child really something I want? Sure, that might be easier for me, but is that really what's best for them? And at least for me, the answer ultimately was no. I don't think them being constantly and ultimately compliant in every situation would be good for them at all. Do I want a child who never questions what they're told and just does it? Not at all. I absolutely want them questioning. It becomes challenging when that quality turns on you, the parent, and they question your intentions when you're giving them directions or recommending behaviors for them to follow. I personally would answer this question of what kind of children do I want to raise. I want children who are confident, self-confident, who love themselves, who respect themselves, who know what's good for them, know what they want and who they want to be. And if you really think about it, none of that coincides with being just a pushover, which I think is when compliance has gone too far. You become a pushover, and I don't want that for my children. I've been that, and it's painful to be a pushover. It's painful to be walked on. It's painful to think you have to comply with something that's not comfortable to you just because someone with authority told you it's best. That's not what I want for my kids. And I think another hard truth on this topic can be that parents often turn to bully-like behaviors when all else fails with defiance in children. I've been there. Unfortunately, I've had to call myself out on being a bully towards my child, coming from a good place and never with the intent of harm, but with concern for them fitting into society, with them being safe, just with that sense of urgency that I think parents can feel. I've certainly felt it. I know I'm not alone in that. There's a sense of urgency for your children to be safe, even mentally and emotionally in the world. And compliance can be safer than defiance in the world. But I don't want to bully my children into being something they're not. Anytime I've caught myself in that type of parenting behavior, it's never a happy place or a harmonious place for our family. So I've had to check myself on that, and I've had to consciously change that behavior in myself. And adjust my expectations based on what I truly want my children to know about themselves. I think it's valuable to teach children respect by respecting them. I don't think we truly respect people we fear. Fear and respect are not synonymous. I think it's important to teach them that they can trust you, and I think the way that we do that is by only asking would probably be a better word, only asking the things of them that are necessary and reasonable. And that can be a challenge as a parent, really thinking, is this necessary for me to demand this of my child? Or is it coming from a place of fear in me? And often, for me, in my situation, my demands were based on embarrassment, fear, things like that, that come from my need to comply with society's expectations of me as a parent. If I'm not demanding my children comply, then I'm not doing right by my children. I'm not parenting them properly in society's eyes. If I let them just be these free-willed spirits that just go out and do whatever they want, I'm doing them a disservice, and they're not going to be respectable adults. You know, I've come to see that for the lie that it is. And my eyes were opened by letting go of those expectations that I had for myself as a parent that were rooted in fear. When appropriate, of course, this is based on age and developmental stages, but when appropriate, I think it's very valuable to have open discussions with our children about these topics. You know, we don't have to feel like we have to hide our intentions from our children. Have an open discussion that there is a difference between demands that are safety related and demands that are simply behavioral related. And I think it's important for us to use proper verbiage and tone in different situations. You know, how can a child tell the difference between a safety situation and a behavioral situation if we're always using that very urgent and you must comply tone? If we use that constantly for both types of situation, how are they to know the difference when something is truly serious and a danger or safety type of a situation versus something that is more related to social nuances, if you will. So that's pretty much it. Those are my thoughts. You know, like I said, I don't really think there's one clear solution, a one-size-fits-all type of thing, but these are my thoughts and my experiences as I've considered these topics with raising my children. There you have it. Thank you for joining me. I hope you found some value, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.